If you clicked on this video, you know what the JB4 is. It's one of the oldest tuning platforms for the N54 engine. These days, everybody's ripping them out in favor of MHD, which means you can get them for a real bargain on Facebook Marketplace, which is where I got mine. I hear they pretty much do the same thing. I'm gonna try them both and figure out what the real difference is, if any. So we're starting with the JB4. Let's get right into the install. There are 6 8mm bolts holding your cowl in. You just remove those. We're gonna pop these covers off by pulling on either side. Pop those off. More 8mm bolts. It's the same on the other side. Disconnect the air quality sensor. Just push in the center of these things to pop them out. Down here, we're gonna undo these snaps like this, and then this just pulls right out. All right, now we gotta get this cover off. It just kind of unlocks. Move it that way. This one goes that way. And then you've got these snaps underneath that you just kind of reach down and pull up on. On that side, not great access. I'll show you how you unsnap these in a second. So basically, I reached down and I did this. Pulled them like that. Just unsnap them. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to disconnect the battery negative cable. Just a 10mm right there. You basically don't want the engine computer to be on while you're plugging and unplugging it. You know, you don't want to short circuit or anything. So all we really have to do is disconnect the 2 harnesses on the engine computer. Now, there's 2 little snaps that kind of hold the engine computer down, so you can kind of unsnap those. Basically right there. This guy right here, just pull that aside, and there's one over there. So you can kind of unsnap that and you can unsnap that and pull this up. It needs to be up so that you can pull this out, get that connector off, and the same thing on this one on the other side. So you pull that up and off. So we just need to remove the inner harnesses from this sort of outer harness. And the way we're gonna do that is we're just gonna push on it from the back, and you just kind of reach in and unsnap this little thing. Hold on, I can get my hand on it. There's a little snap right there. So there's the white one, and then the black one. Like that. Okay, now we are gonna do the same thing with the FAR connector over here. And we do need to take this out in order to get these out. So to do that, you just kind of pry right there, just a little bit, and the same thing on the other side. And that thing pops right out. Don't lose it. And it's, again, the same thing here. The little snaps are down on the bottom. Now, in this case, the black one is on the left, and the gray one is on the right. On the other connector, the white was on the left, and the black was on the right. So just take a picture, maybe. And we'll do the same thing for this one. And we'll get these both out and loose and ready. Now, on your JB4 harness, you'll notice that there is a white and a gray, and then 2 black ones. And there's one black one that's a lot wider than the other. So it's kind of self-explanatory here which one goes to where. You got 2 blacks, a short and a long, and then you got a white and a gray. So it's pretty easy, right? Now, on this connector, I don't know if you can see this, but there is a little arrow and it's pointing that way. And that was the way that it slid into the connector. And on the JB4 connector, there is also a matching arrow. And in this case, the arrow is pointing this way, right? They both have to be pointing the same way. So in this case, I'm gonna flip this over, and then both of those arrows are pointing in the same way. But you just kind of get that in just like that. And now we'll do the gray one right here. So again, that arrow's pointing that way. My arrow here would be pointing that way. Like that. And then same thing. Arrow pointing that way, arrow pointing that way. Okay, get this guy out of the way. We have arrow pointing in the same way. Cool. All right, so let's start with that little connector. Remember I said the gray one was on the right. And again, the arrow shows you the direction that you're putting it in. And again, there's a slot on the side, so you know that kind of slots in like that. And then we have our small black one, which again, arrow makes it go that way. And then our little connector, which I believe was in this direction, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, which way was it, and does it matter? I think it was on this way. Pretty sure. Oh. Okay. And then on our big connector, wherever it went right down here. We're going to do the same thing. Let's see, going by this one. Yeah, okay, I got it right. So here's our big connector. Again, this one's really self-explanatory. The big one can only go on one of the sides because there's already this cable on the other side. So let's get this in. Oops, I'm not in the slot, my bad. There, slides in there, and then our little white one is gonna go, where's the arrow? It's gonna go this way, like that. There we are. All right, now we are going to plug these back in. And I think I will go with the back one first. So you just get that down in and use the slider to slide it down and on. Make sure that's off to the side. Hang on, that's tweaking a little bit. That. You got to make sure it's kind of seated first before you start pushing this thing in, and then it'll snap in place and you can push that thing down. Now, all we have to do is do the power cable. All right, for the power cable, we're going to tap into this guy here. First, we are going to get it off. Now to do that, you just push on these little green things on the side while pulling up. Push with your screwdriver. There we go, pop that out. And then we actually have to get the bottom thing out. So you just pull it up and it snaps out. Now we need to tap into pin 2 and it's numbered. The number 1 is up here and I believe the number 8 is down there. So it goes across like that. And you see that there's a pin 2 right there. That's the one we're going to remove. So that's on the top. We are going to lift this little latch, pop it up like that. It's probably going to break. I'll try to be careful with it. So all I need to do is push the little thing in on the inside, and this screwdriver might be a little too big. So yeah, you might want to have a pick tool or a teeny tinier screwdriver, and you just push down in. And it's just slightly difficult in that you need to just be torquing on it. You need to be pulling on it, and there. Once you get it past the little catch, it's going to catch again on when it's down here, possibly. So again, you push it down again, and then you pull it out. Boom. Now we get our JB4 power wire, which is right here, and we are going to put it in to number 2, which again, it's the same kind of thing, where you see that there's like a little thing that you would push on to kind of snap it in and snap it out. So make sure you're still on port number 2. And you're just going to shove this in until it snaps in there and doesn't pull out. Now we'll close that. And now you plug this power wire into here. And if you have a used one like I do, you might want to make sure that this thing is tight and not loose. Okay? So we're good. Now we can just put this down in here, back where it goes, snap it down in, and plug this back in. Which it looks like this got flipped maybe? No, it didn't get flipped. It goes like this, right? Okay, and now it's in. Cool. Now, don't forget to hook up the actual JB4. You can plug it in here, and I'll do the same thing. Okay. And now we can tuck the module down in here. I think I'm going to go this way. Okay, change my mind. Probably go down and in. Now, is there room? No, there isn't. So I think that is the best sort of location for it, the best situation for it. Cool. We're gonna sort of button things up. Now we got to figure out how to route this USB cable. I want to get it inside the car so it just has easy access. So figuring out how to route this USB cable is too much for today, I think, too much work. I think I would have to follow this harness down, back and around, and there's one grommet here, but it doesn't go in through there, it goes in underneath it. And I think the only way to get at it is to remove this box, and there are actually 2 bolts holding it in on either side of here. And this back panel does pull out of there, you can unlatch it, and the whole thing moves up and you can get it out. But it's too much work for right now, but that's kind of the direction you would go in if you wanted to do this. So that's what I would recommend for that. Right now I'm just gonna leave it here. I'm gonna hook it up to the computer, turn the battery back on, or plug the battery back in, hook it up to the computer, make sure that I flash the latest firmware, make sure all the settings are reset to 0 and all that stuff, and then we'll go have some fun. All right, so I have the ignition on, and I'm gonna plug the JB4 into the computer. I've already installed the USB drivers. I downloaded all the stuff from the forums, which is their like official place where you should download everything. I'll put the link in the description. So I've got those USB drivers in, and now we'll set up the application. All right, we will run the JB4 program. Right click here, manage PC, device manager. This thing is very old, very slow. Ports, so we're serial port COM1. I guess we want to note that. All right, let's run the JB4. Okay, settings, okay. There, we want to click there, COM port 1, file connect. And we are connected. Their instructions and stuff is all wrong. Like it doesn't say what your current map is. Oh, I guess the map would be up there. Okay, fine. Now we just want to do update firmware. Okay, upload firmware. Put the engine off. Yep, my engine's off. AC power cord your laptop. That's right. Yeah, no problem. So make sure your laptop's plugged in. Make sure your car has battery. Update the firmware to the JB4. Hopefully that firmware is in this thing. I don't think that it is. I eventually found it on one of those threads, I believe. There we go. Okay. I would rather have this stable. Thank you very much. Should be in downloads. ISO 32. Okay, it's writing. Got to be very careful here. I see at the top here, there's numbers counting up, so that's what I'm monitoring. If this thing fails while that's going, the thing's nuked. I hate when firmware processes take a long time. Like it should just be real quick, you know. JB upload failed, starting again. I don't like that. Oh, great. Oh, wonderful. It's not happy. Now it's going. It's going pretty fast too. Cross your fingers. I think whatever it did, it adjusted something, or probably adjusted the speed. It stopped. Failed. Starting again. Dude, this has me nervous. This reminds me of very early on in my career. I'm an IT professional. When I was extremely young, like 21 or something like that, I went to upgrade the firmware on the main router for my company's whole internet. And that was the time when like we had everything hosted in-house and everything. And I somehow managed to corrupt the firmware, but the thing was still running, right? So like our sites and everything were up, and we kind of ran that way through the whole weekend while I was like scrambling and trying to figure out how to successfully upgrade the firmware before like the power died randomly, and the whole company would have been down and I definitely would have been fired. But I got out of that. Hopefully I get out of this one. It's just not good, is it? All right, so I cycled the key. Looks like we're not totally killed. It's just they're saying don't operate the car because you have no firmware. So I'm just going to try again. That's all I can do. Looks like it is writing again. I hope turning off the car and turning it back on was the solution here. So if upload times out and fails, increase upload timeout under settings and try again. Who the hell would write software like this? Seriously, dude. I don't think I can change anything until this thing stops. COM1, we're going to put the timeout at 60 seconds. And connect. Error, upload firmware before starting motor. I certainly will. Let's do this again. It's 86 kilobytes. Man, it's like 1989 again. Hack the planet. I mean, I'm guessing the device has like a buffer. You're uploading, a block of data to it, and then it has to go write that data to its memory, and that's what you're waiting for. That's what we need to increase the timeout for. I don't know. Why don't they just preset the timeout much bigger by default so you don't have these issues? Well, we're getting further this time. Shoot, we're almost there. Everybody cross your fingers. Almost there. We're going to make it. I think we are. Verifying checksum. This is important. Rebooting JB4. Oh, update complete. So it took, that's a total time logged. And, okay, what if we read DME codes? Does it do that successfully? Aha, it does. I think it's working. All right, so what I'm going to do is just look up make sure that all these things are I assume because we just uploaded firmware that everything got reset to factory settings, but you never know. So I'm going to take some time, go through all these screens and make sure everything looks good, and then we'll drive to the track and try this out. So guys, my JB4 came with this USB to serial data cable, which is fine, but that's like old school stuff. You have to route it inside the engine compartment, and to do that, you actually have to remove this whole box, get it out there. The cable, the wiring here goes into the car, but it's just down underneath there. You can do that. There's this whole thing is bolted into the body of the car down here and here. So you can do that and get it out, but this is old. Forget that. I bought one of these. This is the Bluetooth conversion kit thing. So I'm just going to use this. And I guess to install this, you have to figure out whether you use pinned or unpinned power. It just depends on which version of the board you have, I guess. And I have the unpinned power, which means I have to tap the power cable into this thing. So that is what I'm going to do. And in order to do that, we are going to need to, I believe, get into this enclosure here. You should be careful. The nut on the bottom will fall out. It's not retained. So I've got my finger over it. Yeah. So that's right there. I'm expecting it to drop, which it did. Does that come out? No, I think I'm wrong. It needs to come out. Yeah. Okay, the whole thing's coming apart. Hey, now we got this out. Okay. So I'll probably just disconnect it. All right, here's what we do. We use this tap thing that they gave us. Tap into one of these wires. Now, it has a little pin that's going to pierce the wire. So we're going to use this on either of the red wires, any of them. So I'll just pick this one here. All the red wires are power. So I'm going to use this red wire here. I hope that this enclosure is big enough for this, man. Hopefully it is. So we are going to screw it in here and pierce the wire. Hopefully that pierced it. And then we'll remove that part of it. And what? I guess we're just gonna go on the side of it. Is that how that works? Never actually used one of these before. Interesting. I guess you just kind of stick that thing through. It's a little strange to me. I've never seen one of these. So we have to come in through this side of this rubber grommet. Like that. Okay. So we're going to come in through the bottom of this cap like that. And then we're just going to stick this in, I guess, off to the side. I think that's how it's meant to be. Right? Yeah. Stick it in like that. I think that's how they mean for you to do it. And hopefully there's room for this thing. I guess the grommet goes right about there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Looking good. Looking all right. So the bolt that's all the way threaded, that's the one that goes in. Of course. These things are tiny, man. Don't drop it. Really gonna put my finger in there. Cool. So let's hook the JB4 back up. Hook this onto the front. Dude, why does it feel like these are not plugging in or something? Oh, maybe it's just that the board is sort of, okay. It's just the enclosure. Okay, finally. So guys, after putting this whole thing together, I actually could not get it to work. And it turns out that you can't just use any red wire like the directions say. Here's my voltmeter. So there's no power on that red wire. There's no power, there's no voltage on that red wire. Along the bottom, there's a couple more reds. That one is 0.05 volts, that's nothing. And then this one on the far edge here, again, 0.35, that's nothing. This one in the middle has 12 volts right here. So this red wire here on this connector, it's on the short side of the connector. You know, the top one has more pins than the bottom one. So it's right in the middle on the bottom one. And I really should have confirmed this before I put the whole thing together. So I'm going to switch it to this pin. I'm going to put a little, actually I don't have any more liquid electrical tape. This should be fine in here. It's inside of a connector. I don't really think I need to protect it that much. You know what? I'll put a wrap of electrical tape around it though, just because I'm on video. Anyway, I'm gonna move the jumper to this wire right here, and then I think I'll be able to get the Bluetooth module to work. Okay, you guys can see the meter, and I am hooked up to the ground on the body of the car. Ignition's on. I've got the jumper in on the power, on the pin that I know has 12 volts, and I'm just gonna test. There you go, 12 volts. So I think that confirms that the JB4 thingy is hooked up. So now I guess we should test and see if we can see it on Bluetooth. This Tune-I Firefly thing, this is what I use for Bluetooth connected to my radio. It's a, you know, aux connector to Bluetooth to aux connector thing. I recommend it. It's good. So far, nothing. I mean, I'm assuming I'm going to see a Bluetooth thing there unless it's just in here. Oh, okay. I guess it just found it. Your device is out of date. Okay, let's update it. Okay, let's try connecting again. Connecting to device. Hey, now it's working. Cool, man. Okay, I guess I should go for a drive and do some data logging. So we have it reconnected here. We've got our power wire tapped, and we're gonna reinstall the JB4 in here. Actually, why don't we, yeah, let's go this way. So I'm gonna put the JB4 Bluetooth thing facing towards the driver that way. That's what they say, and they say don't have it touching the enclosure, which this is a plastic enclosure, not metal, but yeah. And then we will reinstall this. Done. All right, guys, we are fast forwarding to the future because I've already been running the JB4 for a week or two now, so I'm a little more familiar with it, and now I feel like I can talk about it with a little bit of authority. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to show you how the menu works and everything. So in order to get into the menu with your ignition on, you push the volume down and the channel down at the same time, and the dash will change to that right there. That's how you know you're in the JB4 menu. Now on the left-hand side right here, the 0 means you're in menu 0, and if you push the volume up and down, you're gonna change into the different menus. So 10 miles an hour is menu 1, 20 miles is menu 2, menu 3, and you see how the gauge swept like that? That's actually showing you what setting you're at in each menu. So let's go back down to menu 0. This is the most important one, the only one you really need to know about. This is where you choose which map you're on. Now map 0 means that the JB4 is totally off, and map 1 means, you know, 12 PSI. That's what you should do if you don't have any other mods installed. And then map 2 is 13.5 PSI. That's if you have an intercooler or if you have downpipes, that's what you want to be on. We'll skip over map 3 because that's methanol related stuff. And then map 4 is the same thing as map 0, only JB4 will still take over your gauges when you push the throttle all the way down to the floor. It'll actually show you how much boost you're making on the oil temp gauge, and then I forget which one this is. I think it might be by default set to intake air temperature or something like that. I forget, but I'll leave documentation in the description that tells you more about that. Map 5 is the auto learning map, 12 to 17 PSI. The JB4 will figure out, because you can do things like you can use an E30 blend with the stock fuel pump. You can mix in a little bit of E85 with your regular gasoline and come up with an E30 blend, and that'll allow the JB4 to make more power. And it'll figure out if you've done that automatically if you're on this auto learning map. So this is what I pretty much use all the time, and it's a lot of fun, and I've only gotten kicked out of it once or twice, so it's been fine. And then 6 and 7, I honestly forget what they are because I don't use them. Pretty much you just set it to map 5 and you're good, although they tell you should stick with map 1 if you don't have any other mods. But we're gonna have the other mods pretty soon. Anyway, I'll leave it on map 1 just for right now. So menu 0 is pretty much the only menu you really need. I never use any of the other menus. It does have a rudimentary way of reading out your codes, and then there's other configuration stuff that's in there, and I will leave a link to a whole spreadsheet that kind of lays out all the different menus and all the different things in there, and you can go and glance through them, but I never use any of them. I just use menu 0 to pretty much switch the map, and that's kind of it. So that's really, I think, all you need to know. What you do need to know maybe is if you want to change any of these settings, right? Let's say you pick if I want to change to map 5, How do I confirm that? Well, what you do is you push down on the volume button to come out of the menu. So right now I'm in menu 0. When I push down, it's if I'm going below menu 0, you know, to menu like -1, and that's basically exit. That's how you confirm something. So again, if we go back in here, I'll give you another example of that. Let's say I'm in menu 2 and I want to change to setting 1. If I go down, I've confirmed setting 1, right? I've exited that menu by going down out of it. And now we're on setting 1. So if I want to go back to setting 0 in menu 2, that's what I would pick. And then I would go down, and now I've confirmed that. So that's all you need to know. So, you know, if I'm on map 5, you know, I just leave it on map 5 and then down, and we're confirmed. We're out of the menu. We're into map 5. That's all you need to know. All right, now let's go over the app, because honestly, the app is really, really cool. You have to pay $30 for it, but it's definitely worth it because it's got gauges and stuff. So this is, you just, you make an account, which I've already done, then you hit connect. Your ignition has to be on for it to be able to connect. And you can set it to auto connect when you start the app. So these are basically your gauges, and I keep it like this, although I keep switching this gauge to something different. To switch it, you just tap and hold, and you can pick from any of the different things. So it's got a lot of stuff in there. Low fuel pressure, high fuel pressure, fuel economy, which gear you're in, blah, 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 and so on, which map you're in, all these different things. So yeah, I've got it on transmission temperature. Just keep playing around with what I want. Over here is where you can choose which map you want to be in. Real easy, so I don't even use the steering wheel controls anymore. Now the logs. This thing is really cool because it automatically logs for you. So basically when you push the pedal down past, I believe it's 90%, which you can configure in here. I think it's in one of these settings here, not that one. Let's see. Not any of those. Not any of these. Connection settings. Dun, dun, dun. Auto connect, which is right there. App settings. Logging settings. Pedal threshold. So if you wanted to start logging when you're at 75% of the pedal, towards the 75% of pushing it towards the ground, I just keep it at 90%, and it just automatically comes on. I'm actually going to check that because I want that setting. I want that persist log grouping, because what that does is right here, if you turn off the group logs, that means that each time the thing turns on and automatically logs a pull that you're doing, that's going to be its own separate log file. If you have this group logs turned on, every time you do that while you're out driving, it's gonna put all of your pulls into the same log file, which I don't really want. I want them all in a separate log file, so I keep that turned off now. And it'll automatically turn on and start logging, and then it'll stop logging once you let off the pedal, which is pretty cool. If you don't like that, if you want to log your whole trip, you can just hit this log and it just starts recording, you know, during your trip, and then turn it off and it writes your log file. So that's that. The codes is, you know, a code reader. Power management, whatever the hell that means. Doesn't mean anything to me. And then advanced, we were in there. So the user adjustment is where you can play with all the different more advanced parameters. This is in the particular map that I'm in, at the different speeds, what kind of boost are you making? So this is the whole boost curve that it has programmed in. You can set it to a flat one. You can change any of that. Again, you probably shouldn't be doing that if you're not a tuner. Same with the fuel map, the duty cycle, all that stuff. And this one, you can use the water temperature for warm-up safety, which is actually kind of useful because the JB4, it by default, it waits until your engine oil temperature has heated up to a certain point, which takes a really long time. Sometimes you can be out driving for like 20 minutes and it's going to take 20 minutes for that oil temperature to warm up. So if you want to use water temperature instead, which, you know, the engine water, the coolant temperature rises a lot quicker than the oil temperature does. So that's actually super useful. And the rest of it I have not even used yet. So, but all the options are there, and these are all the same options that we can access with the JB4 USB cable and the software that we installed when we did the firmware upgrade. So you can just kind of access most of those settings from the app as well.
and it gives you all information on what you're on and stuff. So we'll save that because I changed that setting, which I think it already was on that setting anyway. And when it's actually warmed up, what it'll do is it'll flash the green arrows, you know, your sort of emergency blinkers. So it'll flash, it'll look like that. It'll flash the green arrows one time, and that's how you know when you're warmed up and the JB4 is on. So, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Haven't gone into the methanol stuff yet because haven't done anything with that yet. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So the gauges are really cool. The logging is really cool, really useful if you want to know all the details about how you're doing, how you're building boost and all that stuff. So it's actually been a couple weeks since I installed the JB4. It's a whole lot of fun. It's really cool. I've been getting a lot of experience with it. I haven't just stuck to map 1. I mean, you should stick to map 1 until you've done a bunch more upgrades, but the really nice thing about JB4 is you can switch it to that auto learning map and it'll just adjust for you. And if you go a little bit too far, it'll kick you out into map 4, which is basically, you know, it turns it off. So, you know, it's got that safety built in, and you can actually make a lot of power with this thing without huge upgrades. I mean, it does work, and you can make a lot more power. I think a lot of people tend to, especially with MHD, they might tend to stick with the map that matches their mods. And with MHD, you should, because there are no safety devices built in. But with JB4, you can just switch it to that auto tuning map and make a lot of power for a short amount of time if you want to, which, you know, depends on what you're doing. So I've been having fun with it, and I'm enjoying it a lot. And I definitely recommend it. You know, it's still an absolutely valid platform. And yeah, it was a little weird, the upgrade, the whole failure. I remember that was really weird. I don't know why it failed multiple times, but that seemed to be normal according to the instructions. So I don't know. If I were you, I just wouldn't even do the upgrade because it's really not necessary. I seriously doubt that they have added, you know, they made any changes that are significant. Because they dialed this thing in a really long time ago. So just install the thing and go have some fun. And if you have problems, then you can, you know, upgrade the firmware. And something tells me that MHD is not going to be this smooth either, or as smooth either. Because with that, you are flashing your whole engine computer. So that's risky, you know? So anyway, we'll see how that goes when we get to it, which is gonna be real soon. And I plan to do more videos on all the common upgrades. And I really wanna, like, I'm gonna do as in-depth a video as I can on each upgrade. It's not just an install video, like this one wasn't just an install video. I wanna do, like, you know, in-depth analysis on each mod and is it worth it? Why is it worth it? All that kind of stuff. So hopefully I can make the best of that, each one of those videos that's out there. So stay tuned for all those, guys. If you enjoyed this one, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.